What up, you cave dwelling savages? Welcome back to the movie Squawk. I'm Kyle, and with me, as always, Gigi, Hannah, and Trevor.
Hello.
I feel like I should squawk or something.
Or just say
Howdy.
hi. Gosh.
Oh, hi.
Hey, I said howdy. Goes with the theme.
I'm
Good
tilting
enough.
my hat at you.
Today's movie pick was my movie pick, and
Uh,
this week I chose a movie called Bone Tomahawk. It's a 2015. This is what it says on Google: American
okay.
independent Western cannibal horror film, written and directed by S. Craig Zoller, starring Kurt Russell, Patrick Wilson, Matthew Fox, Richard Jenkins, Lily Simmons, and a couple of other people. Um, the film basically it's about a small town sheriff who leads a posse into a desolate region to rescue two people who were abducted by cannibalistic indigenous people, or I don't even know if they're people, but they're some kind of
Wait.
something.
There are people too, Kyle.
Hardly. They're savages. So, anyway, as usual, we got some more questions written by yours truly. And is there any other things that we talk about before we get into the questions?
You're asking us?
I am,
No.
because I'm trying to remember.
No, I think we
Go
should
straight
get
to the
into the
questions.
questions.
Okay, great.
Thinking
Sounds
about
good.
it.
All right. So yeah, we got 7 questions to ask. So let's get right into it.
Saddle
First,
up, boys.
yeah, first question I got today is comparing the 4 of us to the 4 main characters in the movie. Who would you put in each character role and why?
Okay. For the role of Sheriff Hunt, I put Kyle. And because there are 7 questions, I'm just gonna list like qualities. Um, and for Sheriff Hunt, I put level-headed and doing what was right, which I think Kyle embodies. Chicory, I put myself. He was also trying to do the right thing, and then he was loyal.
And old.
O'Dwyer, I put Gigi. He did it all for love, and then he was determined to the point of stubbornness and a little passionate, which I think is Gigi. And then Bruder, I put Hannah. He was focused, he took no chances, and then he was mistrustful of others.
Teehee.
Okay. So for Sheriff Hunt, I put Kyle. Um, I put always trying to keep the group together. The fact that like he'd always try to calm the fights between the group. Not like we would all fight, but I feel like Kyle's definitely one of the peacemakers in our group. Um, for Arthur, I put Hannah. Stubborn will go even if someone says to stay behind. Um, Brooder, I put myself, mostly obsessed with looks or materials. For example, the German, which was the telescope. And then Chicory, I put Trevor. Um, always trying to show others the bright side of things. Or like looking on the bright side, like, hey, we made it out alive. Or, the flea story.
Yeah.
Okay. For Sheriff Hunt, I put Kyle as well. I think for us, he's kind of the de facto leader of our group. Not that we like follow a leader or anything, but in making decisions, he's usually the first to, make a decision.
Yeah.
I think as far as, like Trevor said, he's the most level-headed, or at least one of the most level-headed people in our group. And he also seems the most prepared for the oncoming threat of, like, horror western. So I think Kyle fits that role pretty well. I also think he has a passionate side. Uh, Obviously, Sheriff Hunt has his wife, and he has a great life with her. And I think Kyle has that side of him too, that he doesn't show as often, but when it's there, it's nice to see. For Chicory, I put Trevor. Chicory seems the most experienced. He's essentially the deputy slash backup sheriff, so he's knowledgeable about everything in the law and everything. Trevor's also the most experienced of all of us. Chicory is a little bit old, but it gives him old person confidence. So he can,
Confidence.
that
Yeah.
confidence allows him to be able to make light of a horrible situation, or, just give a bit of comedy to everything. And I think Trevor embodies that very well. And I think Chicory also seems to be trying to keep up with the young guns of the group. Everybody's, younger than him, as Trevor is all older than all of us.
Not that much older though.
But
He's not out of
Older,
touch.
nonetheless.
because he's older and he's more wizened and, more experienced, his contributions overall make him a valuable asset. So that
Yes.
also fits Trevor. For Arthur O'Dwyer, I put Gigi, because his character is driven by the love of his wife. We all know that Gigi is driven by the same goals and leads
The
with
love
her
of his
heart
wife.
rather than her head most of the time. For example, Arthur, when he's injured, he's willing to ignore that in order to get to his wife, even though it would probably be better for him to stay out of it. I feel like Gigi has that stubbornness as well, especially if it came to something that involved, someone she loved. So, I also think for Arthur O'Dwyer, everybody in the group sometimes underestimates him because of his little handicap slash injury. But it is him who ends up saving the day. I think
Yeah.
in our group, jokingly, a lot of the time we do this to Gigi. When we come up with survival situations and things, we're always like, "Oh yeah, Gigi's the last. She won't last."
She gives up.
Yeah. But and like I said, that's jokingly, but I do think she would be one of the ones who would definitely end up saving everyone's butts at the end.
Yeah.
And then finally, he always leads his actions with his heart, but he's also very clever, as seen with like the whistle scene and everything.
Yeah.
And I think Gigi's very clever when she's playing games or D&D or anything like that. I think she'll take a minute to, figure out what she's going to do, but her actions never feel unwarranted. Like everything is concise and planned, and it's pretty cool. And then for Bruder, I put me. Bruder comes off as the most cold-hearted in the movie. I think I also come off that way in this group because of my stances and opinions on things that we talk about. The famous joke, Hannah hates everything. So
I'm pretty sure Hannah hates movies, but okay.
I also think that Bruder is shown to have a heart, obviously, when it comes to Saucy, leading me to believe that he has a soft spot for animals. That's 100% in line with me.
Yeah.
He's also the one that tells the group, if you don't hear from me in 30 seconds, go, which to me gives him a very lone wolf style of thinking. He's willing to sacrifice himself for the group, but as we've seen, it's not always the best way to go about things. That kind of, again, fits my jokingly lone wolf style. And then finally for him, he always seems to have the worst in mind, but he's prepared for all of the worst possibilities. Again, his like, smart men don't get married line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have that mindset a lot of the time. Like I tend to think the worst of a lot of situations, but I feel like I'm always prepared for the worst as well. So he definitely lines up with me a lot more than I'd like.
Great picks. Man, it's kind of crazy. I went like a completely different direction. So for I did it alphabetically for us. So for Gigi, um, I put her as Chicory,
Oh,
because I feel like Chicory kind of had like this, like, I don't know, like this nonchalant sort of like gonna make everything kind of the best out of everything. And I feel like for whatever reason, it reminded me of Gigi when I was thinking about this question. And she's like always trying to find like a reason to laugh, or just, I don't know. I felt like it was Gigi. And she was kind of like Chicory to me was kind of like the light of the party of the posse, and I feel like that would be Gigi a lot of times in our group. So there's that, and then I put Hannah as Arthur, because I feel like he is very stubborn, but he's also very passionate for what he wants. And in this situation, he wanted to get to his wife, and he would stop at nothing for that. And I feel like Hannah would do that too if she was trying to, find, someone or something or whatever the situation may be. And I just think that Arthur was just super passionate and had this sort of drive and this goal in mind. And I think Hannah kind of fits that sort of, like, I'm not going to stop until I achieve my goal. And then for Trevor, I put him as Brooder. Um, Brooder was pretty cocky and confident. Trevor's really only one of those, but
Cocky,
khaki.
obviously.
no, no, the other one.
So cocky.
But he's also sort of just doing his own thing and not caring what anyone thinks the whole movie, and I feel like that's kind of what Trevor's all about. Um, and I feel like Bruder didn't really take that many risks, and I think he had a little bit of like a brave side in him, especially towards the end of the movie. And I feel like Trevor would kind of step up to the occasion too. He wouldn't take risks, but if he felt like he needed to, take that risk and try to get the group further, he would. So I put him as Bruder, and then which leaves me as Sheriff Hunt. I didn't really plan for this, but I don't really see myself as someone in charge or like a sheriff or anything like that. But I think where Sheriff Hunt and I relate is really just in doing the right thing. Um, he was pretty obviously like reluctant to go on this journey in the first place, but mostly because he knew it would be certain death. But
Mm.
I think there was a part of him that just knew he had to do it no matter what, because it was the right thing to do, and he wanted to make other people happy and bring them back together. So I think he was just trying to give other people a chance to live a full life. Um, and I also think he was very sympathetic. Um, like towards the end, when we see that gruesome death by Deputy Nick, Hunt is trying to basically just tell him that, like, there's a cavalry coming, and these savages, they're going to get what's coming to them. And he's just trying to tell him something that he'd want to hear. And I feel like if I was in that position, not Nick's position, but the other in Hunt's position, um, I would say something like that to someone, like to try and just tell them, like, justice will be served. You will get avenged.
Kind of like
And
ease the pain.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, I
yeah.
feel like that would be my sort of approach to it too, because I'd want to be strong for other people who can't be strong. So yeah, that's all mine.
Okay, that's all the questions you get
Yeah.
back.
So moving on to question 2. Um, it is let's see. Question 2. Let's switch up the roles a bit. If it was Arthur O'Dwyer instead of Samantha O'Dwyer who went to the jail to patch up the drifter, assuming that he knew how to do that, and eventually get abducted, would there have been more urgency or less urgency? And do you think Mrs. O'Dwyer would have gone on the journey with Sheriff Hunt? And does Bruder still join them willingly?
I said less urgency. Assuming they didn't just outright kill him because he did have a bad leg. Um, I don't think Samantha would have been as gung ho as Arthur was. Just for the line she says while she's in the jail, and I'm gonna paraphrase here because I couldn't find the actual quote, but she said something like, "Idiots are the most dangerous part of the West." So, with that mindset, I don't think she would have willingly gone um, on what was like a 5-day journey
Hmm.
Yeah.
to find someone who she probably would have guessed is like already dead.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
what?
Nothing. You have your opinion.
Okay.
Stop
I
judging
think
it
she
then.
was
Gosh.
a little bit more logical and sensible than this. Hey, I'm gonna go risk my life. Yes, it was her husband, but I think she probably would have gone like, or maybe rationalized it, like they would have killed him, like right away.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, if Bruder went to go fetch Arthur, I think he would have still gone. Like, this is still my responsibility. I'm the one to go fetch him, and he's now gone because of that. So I think Bruder would have still gone either way.
Mm.
Yeah.
But Arthur did have the bad legs, so there probably would have been less of an urgency to get there as quick as possible to save him from these cannibals.
Yeah. I can see that.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So I said, I completely reversed it. So I figured she had the injured leg and he was fine. Um, so I said if he was like the town's only doctor, there could be urgency. Or if he had like a really important role in the town, I can see that. Um, but I don't think it would have the same urgency as it was for her. When she went missing. Um, I think she would have gone just for the fact that uh, that's her husband is my reasoning. And I put that like it kind of reminds me of the movie um, called The Missing with Tommy Lee Jones. Um, it was pretty. It was this lady and her two daughters live out on a farm, and one of them gets abducted, and so the lady goes out with her estranged not estranged husband, estranged father to go find her because she was taken by Indians.
Mm.
Um, but it's a western and it's very similar in a way. But I imagine it'd kind of have that kind of feel of like the woman is taking the strong role and um, not doing like I guess a normal western woman would do. Of, I'm gonna go save my husband.
Yeah.
Um, which I think would be interesting. Um, and then I think Bruder would have gone um, to pretty much the same thing like Trevor said. He went and got him, and he put him in this kind of danger, so he would feel like he owes him a debt, like a life for a life kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I think most cowboy movies have that, like, oh, you saved my life, so I'm indebted to you until
Yeah.
until it's even. So I feel like that's what that was or would
Mhm.
have been.
Wookiees also have a life debt.
It's also true. Wookiees are cowboys.
Confirmed.
You heard it here first. Okay. Um, I definitely think there would be less urgency if Arthur was taken. Just thinking about the times of which this would have taken place, I think they would have an assumption that a man could take care of himself out in the wilderness better than a woman.
Not any
Um,
man, a cowboy man.
because people were doing rancher missions and all sorts of stuff back then, just on a willy-nilly. So I think they would assume like, oh, he's not actually missing, and then if it gave it enough time, they would be like, oh, maybe he is missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But since it was a woman that went missing, there was obviously more urgency there. Like, oh, she probably can't take care of herself out there.
Yeah.
Which, sounds horrible, but it's the way the world worked back then. So,
Right.
yeah, if it was Arthur, I think there would be less urgency. If, based on this version of Samantha, I don't think she would actually go after him. Going back to what Trevor said about her saying that idiots are like the most dangerous thing in the West. And she was like adamant about that. She's like, idiots.
Yeah.
So
I
much
remember
passion.
that. Like, yeah, it was just like, whoa.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this version of her would not have taken that risk to go after him. Maybe she would have been adamant about someone else going, like, trying to beg some of the bigger, strappier men to go after him or something. But I don't think she would have gone after him. I would love to see a different version of her where she's like this badass cowgirl woman strapping up with the boys to go rescue her husband. But
Yeah.
based on this version, how angry she was that Sheriff Hunt and Chicory got taken and were basically in the same situation as she was.
Yeah.
It was like that scene in Attack of the Clones where Anakin ends up on the post right next to Obi-Wan and he's like, "Oh, you were my rescuers? Great job."
What a dick.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think she would go, but I'd love to see a version where she did.
Yeah.
As far as Bruder still joining them, I think he would still join them, but it would take a little bit more convincing if it was Arthur. He claims throughout the movie to be like the smartest man among them and that he's not taking risks for nothing. So I think if he's just chasing after another man, there's not really a sense of merit or heroism in it.
Yeah.
Which is, I think at his very core is what he really cares about. He puts his ego first. But, in this situation, it was a woman who was missing. It was an important woman who was missing. So it kind of reaped more benefits in the town for him to go after a woman. There's more
Right.
merit to like rescuing a damsel in distress than there is just some dude who went missing.
Yeah.
So I think he would still join them if it was Arthur, but it would take a little bit more convincing.
Okay. So for me, I said I'd think there would be less urgency from the group as a whole. Only because I think kind of along the same lines that Hannah was going, like it was all men, or it would have been all men if it was Arthur that was taken. So I feel like there would just be like this sort of feeling like, oh yeah, well, he's a man, he can take care of himself. And on top of that, like I feel like back then it's like men die every single day in the West. It's just part of life. But like if a woman were to go, then that's kind of different in a way. So I just feel like if it was if it was all men that were abducted, they would be like, who cares? But so I think that if the roles were switched, though, I think Samantha would actually be more vocal about it, though. Despite the fact that it's less urgency, I think Samantha would be like almost to the point of like being like, yeah, we have to go after him. He's my husband, this and that. And I think she would be more than anything kind of blinded by, her love for him, because it's pretty obvious that she cares about him a lot and they care about each other and they have a really solid relationship. So I feel like if she was like someone that was on the outside looking in, she'd probably be like, oh, these idiots are going to go get themselves killed. But since it's her husband, she's like, no, we have to go.
Yeah.
So I think there would be a lot of convincing on her part to be like, yeah, we have to get a group together and go. And I think Samantha would have ventured out with them, whether they liked it or not. Kind of like the same way Arthur just kind of said, "I'm going no matter what."
Yeah.
And I think in general, I think it would have made a very interesting sort of alternate storyline if it was her out on the long journey and we saw a lot more of her. Because she seemed like a strong character from what we saw. Um, and I think she would have really held her own if she was the one out there trying to rescue Arthur. But, you know, of course, with like alternate plot lines and alternate things happening, it's kind of hard to, really say how it would have been. And then for answering the other part about Bruder, I think Bruder definitely would have still gone with them. Um, and I think it would have been for not the right reasons. Because originally he went and he said he went because he felt like he owed owed Samantha because he was the one that brought her to the sheriff's office and ended up getting her abducted. And I feel like if it was Arthur, he wouldn't really care about Arthur. It would kind of still be about Samantha for him because he claims a few times throughout the movie, like maybe not claims, but it's obvious that he had feelings for her at some point or tried to make moves on her at some point. And Arthur was very, vocal about that and got pissed off at him a few times. but
Yeah.
but I think Bruder would have gone for Samantha, not for Arthur, because I think might sound a little diabolical, but I think in the back of Bruder's mind, he'd probably be like, "Oh yeah, if Arthur ends up dying on this trip, well, then I'll be there to pick up the pieces."
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that's kind of my thought process for that. And yeah. All right. Question 3. What did you think of Bruder killing the Mexicans? Was it the right decision, or do you think the consequences would have been different had he not killed them?
I think they could have waited at least a little bit, but um, they were definitely suspicious of the Mexicans, I mean, because it was pretty late at night, and I don't know if this was an actual thing back then, but like you did see it in the movie, like if you're coming up on like someone's camp, you do announce yourself beforehand, which they didn't really do. They got pretty close to the camp
Yeah.
before they were spotted, actually. So they were definitely suspicious. But I think uh, whatever they needed, like if they legitimately needed help or something, the four of them didn't have time to help them.
Yeah.
So um, I I don't know if I would have done the same thing. I probably would have at least heard them out first, but there was like that, why are they there in the middle of the night,
Hmm.
kind of sneaking up on this group that's sleeping?
They need to borrow some sugar.
Yeah, so they were definitely suspicious from the beginning,
Yeah.
and Chicory did notice that one of them had a cross as a necklace, but like that doesn't mean anything. Like
Yeah.
I could put one on right now, it doesn't mean I'm suddenly religious. Like it's, if anything, it's probably even more suspicious.
Very suspicious of crosses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it could just be a
But
front.
yeah, it could be a front. Like they probably could have pretended to be like missionaries. Like they could have had like a whole thing planned out. Like they were
Yeah.
just walking around building missionaries, but like just two people in the middle of the night in this area. Like
You don't buy it?
I don't buy it.
Yeah.
So it probably was in the end. Like we weren't. Um, I think it was probably justified, especially during that time period. But personally, I would have waited a little bit just to hear what they had to say first.
Yeah.
Right.
And Gigi, what do you think?
Well, as being part of the Mexicans, just kidding. um,
Yeah, she was eating her taco as that
Oh
the
my
bar
Oh
happened.
boy.
Anyways,
Yo
um,
quiero.
I put if he had made the decision based on gut, which I think he did, I could understand, especially like it sounded like he kind of like had encounters with other people on his many journeys
Yeah.
of life. So like I get the gut feeling. I probably wouldn't have killed them. I probably would have done like Trevor said, just waited, and hear them out. But of course, we're modern day folk, so we don't know. um, and then I put if he just shot to shoot, that he was an asshole. Um, but I also put I think the ambush would have happened regardless, especially with the fact of like I don't I don't know why, but most people when they set up camp, they have one person keep an eye out, but they didn't seem to have done that. They all kind of went to sleep at the same time.
Well,
Hmm.
because they were all moving at the same purpose. Like it
Right.
was a sense of urgency. It's like you needed to rest up, so you were able to travel a whole day.
Right. But at the same time, like, you're out in the middle of the wilderness, especially Arthur being like one of the cowboys that does the frontier work, it sounded like. Like, they should, I don't know, I get it. But at the same time, like, shifts. Like, you stay up for an hour, and then I'll take over for the next hour.
Yeah, I get
I
what
don't
you're
know.
saying. I
Yeah.
think it was a matter of them trusting their um,
Surroundings.
well, Bruder had set up the tripwires.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like they just relied on those tools that he
Hmm.
had prepared for already a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
too much, and that's why it ended up happening. It just shows like you can't be too prepared
Yeah.
Right.
because there's things that go around it. So
Not only that, but it only seemed like they had one set of tripwires, right? Like only on one side, or did they like?
I'm sure they did the perimeter. They just maybe didn't show it
Mm,
on screen
yeah, he probably just
probably,
showed one.
just to
but
establish that they were doing that.
they were doing that, yeah. But I think the ambush probably would have happened regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my answer.
Okay. Um, so I said that obviously killing both of them was an impulsive move, and it was definitely based on assumption, but kind of what I got from the characters thus far, that's kind of exactly what I expected him to do. Just with his like over preparedness, his kind of paranoia in that, his also sort of cocky nature. That's kind of exactly what I expected. Um, my own moralities would say that ideally he should have, taken them hostage, questioned them just like the sheriff wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
But, life doesn't always work like that, and sometimes split second decisions have to be made. So I think overall, I can't, with my own morality, I can't call it the right decision, but overall, like in a general sense, he prevented them either way from being killed in an area that has cannibals in it.
Yeah.
So, whether or not, they were innocent passerbys, or if they were intending to ambush them like they eventually did get ambushed, he's going to have to deal with the consequences of shooting both of them on his own conscience, which I don't know if he is dealing with that. Ideally, I would love to think that he is. That would bring out so much depth for his character, but it's his own conscience that's at stake here, not their lives. So
Yeah.
Right.
call it right, call it wrong.
All right. Um, so personally, I think Bruder ultimately did the right thing. If I've learned anything from playing Red Dead Redemption, it's that if some if some complete stranger walks
Oh my
into your
god.
camp, even after you've
Uh,
pointed a gun at him, chances are more likely that he's going to try and either steal something from you or try and kill you, or there's something that you got that he wants. And I just don't see a reason why those two needed to come into their camp without it being suspicious, Like I just feel like it was wrong. It was the middle of the night, and it was their fault for doing that. And it definitely looked like they were trying to sneak up because they had like
Yes.
they were hunched over. They were like as soon as they spotted them, they both froze, and I mean it just seemed really suspicious
I didn't
through
even
and
see
through.
the second guy until he lit the match, and I was like, "Ooh,
Yeah, yeah.
ooh."
There's two of them. Honestly, I thought other people would have popped out as well.
Yeah, I
Hello.
was looking out in the mountains like above them to see if there was like another group of people
Same.
like watching
Hmm.
or something, but I didn't see anybody. Um, but I think if he maybe didn't kill them or waited to see what they had to say or anything like that, I don't think the outcome would have changed. Um, it's almost certain that the people that eventually took all their horses were part of that same group. Obviously, it's never confirmed, but it's just assumed. Um, so I mean, I don't know. I think it was just the right thing to do, and I just think no matter what, those people were not friendly. Um, but also on top of that, I don't think anything would have changed. I think they still would have gotten their horses either killed or lost them completely. Um, but maybe I'm thinking if that didn't happen, if those two didn't try to come into their camp or anything like that, then maybe the ambush would have been more successful because maybe they wouldn't have been on their toes as much, and they might have actually been able to kill one of them. So at least that didn't happen. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's my thought process. I just think it kind of sucks because like any scenario that I think of, the horses get stolen and Saucy dies.
Oh.
All right. Next question. Question number 4. Did Bruder's death have meaning in the end?
Um, he was able to take out at least one more cave dweller, so I think it did. Um, they went in and like as you saw in the movie, they were pretty much unprepared for what happened to them,
Yeah.
and trying to keep count of how many there were, and they almost lost. Like it was pretty lucky what happened,
Hmm.
especially with the um, cave dweller not knowing how to cock the gun,
Yeah.
and then with Arthur showing up when he did.
Yeah.
Like it was all luck at that point. So Bruder taking out one more cave dweller who easily could have gone up there, checked out what was going on, probably killed someone. So I think he did.
Yeah. Um, I put yes, just for the fact that kind of the same thing with Trevor. He went out with a fight. He got one more, which eventually helped them in the end because um, they were counting and trying to figure out how many they would be going up against. So yeah,
That was your answer?
yep, pretty
Oh,
much. I
okay.
don't want to repeat what Trevor said. It's just the same thing. Like his death. I mean, he helped them kill one more person, and I mean, it helped them in the end.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I might be reaching for some straws with this character, but
Straws.
um, I I think I overanalyzed this a lot, but I think his death did have meaning for me personally, but for different reasons. Um, I like to think that he died with a lot of regrets. Um, like he had mentioned that he isn't married. We're assuming that he probably had feelings for Samantha at one point. They only really show his passionate side when Saucy dies.
Yeah.
And I think that all kind of all of that adds up to a person who's very empty inside, and which is why I mentioned earlier that I do like to think that he may have been dealing with a very heavy conscience. Because obviously when he killed those Mexicans, it was nothing. Like he's done that before. There's no way it was just a first time thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I overall just felt a lot of pity for him throughout the movie, and when he died and was able to kind of not really redeem himself, but at least go out, you know, like you guys said, taking out another cave dweller and doing something good for himself.
Yeah.
I think he may have, felt a little bit more full when he died, as opposed to empty, and maybe his conscience would have had one tack off of it. But I do think he died with a lot of regrets, and I think that gave it meaning for me because that's a sad existence,
Yeah.
and I think someone like that definitely deserves to have their life have meaning for that, especially if they're gonna die that way. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Hannah on that. I did kind of overanalyze it a little bit too. I did say that I think his death did have meaning. Um, I kind of want to talk about like Bruder and his horse, Saucy. Um, Obviously, they were very close, and earlier in the film, he mercy kills Saucy after she was injured. And for me, there was something about Bruder's expression when he put down Saucy, besides his obvious sorrow and regret. Um, for whatever reason, it made me feel like there's like this piece of him that kind of died with Saucy. And from that point forward, I feel like Bruder was a little more generous at times. I think one of the examples is when he ended up giving the German to Chicory, and earlier in the film he was like, "There's no way in hell I'm gonna, give this to you. This is expensive piece of equipment." But later in the film, there's that piece of growth that's like, "I've seen how you operate," is what he says, and then he gives him the German, and Chicory's obviously, it's just the smallest little thing. It's just a telescope thing. Um, but like for Chicory, like it meant a lot to him, and for Bruder, I feel like it was like a step in the right direction for his character. And then on top of that, I also feel like him kind of taking the lead towards the end, right before he died. I think that was another step in the right direction for Bruder, because he kept saying like, "Oh yeah, I'll take Vanguard," which I'm assuming means the front. Um,
Yeah.
and he was just saying like, "Yeah, if you guys don't hear from me, go." But
Yeah.
he just seemed to be more brave in that scene, and I feel like it was just like this sort of final step for him to sort of try and redeem himself, because I feel like there was a lot of regret in his life. And there was another thing, was when he got his hand cut off right before he died, and he was telling Chicory, he's like, this is my spot. I'm gonna die here. I'm accepting it. And earlier in the film, he was talking to Chicory about, I think it was about Arthur's leg, and they were just saying like, Bruder was like, "Oh, you'll never see me live as a cripple." And I thought that was a nice little subtle touch of foreshadowing, because he literally, pretty much lives up to that, because when he gets his hand cut off, he's like, "Yep, I'm not making it out of this. This is my spot right here."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a nice little, you know, good continuity of the character. Um, but I think Bruder's death, like that final moment with him, I think it meant a lot for the group, because Bruder was able to kill. I think he killed one,
Hmm.
and then he killed the other one right before he threw the tomahawk at his head. So I think he killed at least two, and then there was the other one that I think Sheriff Hunt killed. But either way, um, I feel like seeing Bruder kind of like kill some of these cave dwellers. I think it really showed like, maybe this is doable, and despite them being unprepared, I think it gave Sheriff Hunt and Chicory a little bit of confidence to kind of go forward and keep going with the mission and not go back like Bruder suggested. So, I mean, obviously they went back and then got ambushed again, but I think they would have eventually got into the cave anyway, regardless. So,
Well, they got ambushed, didn't
yeah,
they?
I know. That's what I'm saying. They got ambushed and then got dragged into the cave, but I think they would have gone back into the cave anyway. So, yeah, I think his death did definitely have meaning. All right, question 5. Were you surprised that Sheriff Hunt died? Or presumably died?
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly die. Since it's not shown.
No, not really. Given how many times that they got hit with arrows and bone tomahawks and kicked and etc.
Shot.
I'm actually kind of surprised any of them made it out alive or lived as long as they did. And I think he's dead. Like they left the cave, he's up there, and it
His
shows
guts
like
are
they had
open.
to climb a rope to get up there. Um, he had his stomach cut open. He's not making it out of there.
Nah.
So
Yeah.
Sheriff Hunt is dead.
At least he could have some nice belly flask before he died.
Yeah, of
Gosh.
course.
Of opium.
Of opium, yeah.
Then he wouldn't feel it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. So I put no. I figured it was gonna be him or Chicory. There's always one dead cowboy in every western usually, so it was gonna be him or Chicory. That was my guess. Um, but yeah, I mean, having your gut cut open usually results in death. Not only that, but he had blood coming up from his mouth, which is not a good sign either. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna also go with he's dead.
Allegedly, that was blood.
Homeboy be dead, Hannah. Let it go.
Yeah, he didn't have any resurrection scrolls with him, so
No.
Darn.
Should have packed those for the journey.
For me, I said, nope, it's a Western. I expected him to die heroically, just as any cowboy or any samurai would in a samurai film. He died doing his job, and he fulfilled his life to the fullest that he could at that point. And I think it was a good way for him to go because it was on his own terms.
Yeah.
And it makes it all the more, badass for him being like a Western hero to go out like that. So he'll definitely be a legend in that town.
Yep. Yeah, I also said no, I wasn't surprised. From my experience with Kurt Russell movies, his characters seem to die doing something heroic towards the end of the film more often than not. I'm not really sure if that's like a preference thing by Kurt Russell or if it's just like how they write all his characters. I'm not really sure, but naturally, I just assumed Sheriff Hunt was gonna die and gonna go out like a badass. And sure enough, I think he did. I'm okay with that. It was kind of not annoying, but it was kind of frustrating to see him and Chicory kind of be almost like pushed around by these cave dwellers. Like when they got ambushed the 2 times, like it just seemed like they like were hardly trying, and it was just obviously it was probably because they were fatigued and not prepared, but
yeah.
like it was just like I don't know, it was nice to see him like redeem himself and to you know do something awesome.
What is slowing him down? His
What?
intestines.
Yeah. Yeah, once he got rid of those,
Yeah.
once he
I mean,
let
he's
those
sitting on an
breathe.
empty stomach.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think it was almost expected from from me watching it that he was gonna die. Um, I feel like this journey wasn't really for him or about him in the grand scheme of things, but he did everything he could for a successful mission, and I'm glad he was at least able to survive long enough to see the mission be completed. I just feel like he deserved that closure. So
Yeah.
yeah.
he assumed they made it back to town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just
It's
end
a
up
big
like dying like the most boring death. They just die of like exhaustion or
without
something.
dysentery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're crossing a river.
They drown in like a 4-foot river.
Like, it starts with one person slipping, and then the others try to help them, and they all just get pulled under. That's what happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, this is the problem. Samantha would slip and fall, and she'd be drowning in the little tiny 4-foot river, and then Chicory, because he's old and he forgot, he would just wander off into the wilderness.
Oh, man.
Well, it's like my favorite line of the movie. Oh, I'm old and I forgot. All right. Question number 6. Who did you view as the main character of this film? Sheriff Hunt or Arthur O'Dwyer? And who did you care about the most between the 4 of them?
I think it was pretty equal. They were both doing their respective responsibilities. Hunt as the sheriff and O'Dwyer as the husband. Um, I don't know if, I mean, it was definitely about Arthur getting back to his wife, but it was also about Sheriff Hunt also trying to find Samantha. Um, but I think it was definitely equal, and I liked all 4 of them. They were all different, and they all brought something different to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if I could choose between them. Um,
He's old and he forgot.
but yeah, I liked all 4 of them.
Okay.
Hey, I said I don't think either were really like main characters. I agree with Trevor. I think they both shared the same amount of I put like their backstories. Like you saw a little bit of how Arthur and Samantha lived, and then you saw the sheriff with his wife, and I feel like it was kind of equally shared, if that makes sense. Because you got to know them, those two, obviously a lot better than the other two, um, and their struggles in their lives or whatever. Um, so I don't think there was really a main character. Um, Unless I had to pick, then I picked both of them. Besides the other two, and then who I cared about the most. I don't know. Like they all were different in their own way, but they all had their own unique story. Um, so I don't have a favorite. I like them all.
Okay.
Hannah's like, first of all,
You're wrong.
You indecisive sons of.
I don't make decisions, so.
I'm just kidding. For me, I definitely viewed Arthur and the sheriff as parallels, but I think overall I viewed the sheriff as more of the main character than Arthur. Even though the film was, clearly Arthur rescuing his love, I think the sheriff ended up being the one with more to fight for overall. Examples being he needed to get back to his wife, he needed to fulfill his duty as a sheriff in rescuing Samantha. Wow, children. And also, I think on some levels, he needed to prove to whoever was listening that justice would prevail overall, despite them being in like a lawless horror survival situation.
Mm-hmm.
I think because we saw what tainted morality did for characters like Bruder, the sheriff's like unwavering sense of right and justice and law, he prevailed and overall accomplished his mission. So I think he had more going for him. The character I think that I cared the most for was Saucy.
Hey, I said between the 4 of them.
I was gonna say he said between the 4 of them, so.
I'm just kidding. He's a yoke. It was a tie for me between the sheriff and Bruder. I obviously wanted the sheriff to prevail and to get back to his wife after rescuing the damsel and live happily ever after, but life doesn't work that way, so it was satisfying enough for me to see that he died heroically and was a good, like, in a good place to do so by the end of the film. And then for Bruder, I felt pity and empathy for him for most of the movie. He comes across as very petty and intelligent, but I could see there was definitely an emptiness to him that carried throughout and definitely made itself known when Saucy died.
Hmm.
So he was, to me, he was a man living on the edge and had to have been dealing with the consequences that come with that life, and that ultimately led me to care about him.
Oh.
Cute.
I know.
Someone finally cares.
I may be the only one who does, okay?
For me, I didn't really think about it until I watched the movie and then asked the question, and I was like, wait, who is the main character? But it was kind of tough for me because, like you guys were kind of saying, I think they were both pretty equal when it comes to, their drive and their purpose and their story. But because on one side, I feel like Sheriff Hunt overall gets more screen time than Arthur. But I feel like Arthur, he's the one that's trying to rescue someone that he loves, and I've, I'm not sure if this is really true, but I feel like he's really the only character in the whole movie besides like little snippets where he gets like extended screen time, like one on one, like just him and the audience.
Well,
Um,
he is traveling by himself.
yeah, I know, but I feel like that kind of for me makes it feel like he may be more of the main character because he's the one that we really want to root for because he's trying to get back to his wife that he loves. I
You
guess you
want
could
to
say
get back
his
to your
life.
life
Yeah.
too.
So, I thought that whole scene at the end, towards the end, where he was traveling by himself, I think that was really sort of like an uplifting moment because it shows him pretty much pulling off the impossible and crawling his way to this cave, to kill the rest of these cave dwellers. And I mean, it's hard to really choose one hero in this film because I feel like they both have these heroic acts. But I think in the end, for me, I feel like Arthur's the one that's sort of the main character in all this because I think it's him. This is his journey. I feel like, despite Sheriff Hunt kind of being in the center of a lot of things, I feel like it was Arthur. Um, and with that being said, I would say that Arthur is probably the one I care about the most because of what he had to overcome. I don't know if I would be able to do that, to travel for multiple days, for a journey that was supposed to take like 5 days, and I think they said they were supposed to try and do it in 3 days.
Mhm.
And then they lose their horses, and it's like, oh shit, how is he going to get past this? And then he something happens to his leg when he punches Bruder, and the bone comes out, and that was gross. And it's like, okay, yeah, this is it, he's done. But then but then it shows up again. He's there, and he's still fighting, and he comes into the cave and kills the rest of them literally on his knees. And it's just
Yeah.
like the amount of like drive and passion that he has to reach his wife is just it's admirable. And I definitely feel like he's the guy that I'm rooting for throughout this movie. um, he might not be the perfect person, but I think you can't deny his passion for his wife.
Well said.
Thanks. um, Question
Kudos.
number 7: would you consider this movie to have a happy ending or a sad ending, and why?
I would say a sad ending. Um, Even the ones who made it out alive are gonna be traumatized after that.
Yeah.
Um, like just given all the shit that they went through and all the stuff that they saw. Like just the guy, who was it, Nick? Just upside down splits, pretty much. Yeah. Um, and the ones who died, they went in horrendous ways.
Mm.
So yes, there were survivors, but at the same time, they were no survivors.
They were never the same.
Yeah, like I don't know. I would not call that a victory by any means.
That's your opinion.
Oh my god.
Oh man. So I disagree with Trevor. Though they obviously seen some shit. I put that it could be considered a happy ending as they achieved the goal that they wanted, which was rescuing the wife. Um, they may never be the same, but they got out of there and they achieved their goal. That's all I got.
You're saying
I
it
think
like
if
it's
they
almost a question.
I feel like if they had all died, or if they ended up going there and she was already dead, I feel like that would have been a sad ending. Or the fact that like
Yeah.
she became one of their weird pregnant women, then yeah, that would have been
Oh,
terrible.
that would have been another level of fucked up.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm gonna count this as happy.
Well, they lost two people to save one.
Well, they were saved.
Technically three if you want to count Nick. They lost three
Yeah.
people to save one.
Yeah. But
But it's a woman.
they went out and they achieved part of their goal, and I think that's okay.
Partially happy.
You did okay.
Yes.
50%.
C minus, guys.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think it was. I mean, maybe not super happy, but it was a better ending. I don't know, but I don't. I don't think it was completely sad.
All right.
Okie dokie. I said it's kind of both. I think the movie
That was an
Inside Out
option.
does it the best, but happiness and sadness work together. Um, so, I don't know if on a general term I could call this ending happy or sad, but there are happy and sad elements to do it. Like, the sheriff went out like a hero. Arthur got his wife back. Chicory made it out alive. But, there's also sad elements to it. My personal, sadness goes out for the sheriff's wife who doesn't get her husband back.
Yeah.
For Chicory and for Arthur and his wife who are now, like Trevor said, traumatized. I feel for them, and there's definitely like a sadness element to it. So I don't know if you could call it happy or sad, like specifically, but I think both happy elements and sad elements, give us the ending that we got. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
All right. I'm kind of in the middle as well. I ended up picking sad ending because I feel like kind of the same points that Trevor pointed out. They are going to be traumatized, the ones that made it out alive, and I feel like it's one of those events that happens in your life where you just feel like you'll never really get that innocence back. Like they saw some pretty fucked up shit, and on top of that, I mean, I'm sure Samantha saw some pretty fucked up shit before they even showed up. So I mean, we never get to hear exactly all the things that she may have gone through or seen, but I feel like overall it's a sad ending, but there's also some things to feel good about. I mean, obviously they did technically, mission was successful. I mean, the whole point was to rescue Samantha, and you can throw Deputy Nick in that too. And unfortunately, they didn't get him out, but I think it was really about Samantha. Um, so I think in terms of like the mission being successful or unsuccessful, I think that was a happy element. I think it is cool that they did survive and not everyone died. But I do feel for certain characters, like Hannah said, Sheriff Hunt's wife. I feel like she almost knew it more than Sheriff Hunt knew it that was going to be the last time they saw each other.
Yeah.
And she's gonna never get that sort of closure, and that's gonna suck for her. But on the positive side of things, I feel like this is gonna give Arthur and Samantha a chance to live their lives and to maybe not take advantage of things and you know heal
Become
Arthur's legs.
sheriff.
Yeah, become sheriff.
Or some bandits come by and raid the village and kill him. Who
Oh
knows?
God.
Yeah, there you go.
There's the Wild
There's
West.
there's positive Trevor to keep things light.
Yep, shit
There's
happens.
also dysentery.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
always an option.
but I think the main takeaway from this ending for me was I feel like there was a lot of closure for the audience. One of my favorite lines in this movie is right before, I think it's pretty much the last thing that Sheriff Hunt says. He's talking to Chicory, and he's basically saying that I'm not getting out of here, just go. And then he says, say hi to my wife for me, and I'll say hello to yours. And I thought that was a really touching moment. Um, it's one of those movies that's not really, it doesn't make me feel very like emotional in that way, but that part kind of got me a little like, oh, that's sweet. And
Yeah.
I thought that was a really nice way for him to go out, just being super brave and doing his job at the end of the day. So yeah, I think it was a sad ending, but I think there were happy sort of elements to go with it, and there was a lot of good closure. So yeah. All right. So now that that's over, we are going to move on to some of our regular questions that we ask. Starting with the
The scheduled program.
Yeah, starting with the Rotten Tomato scores. So this movie, the critic score on Rotten Tomatoes is a 91%, so a solid A minus. However, the audience score is 73%,
Oh.
and I thought that was interesting. What do you guys think about those scores?
I think the audience is a bunch of babies.
Bunch
I
of
agree with
babies.
the critic score. I think this was a very solid movie. Yes, there was a pretty grotesque scene in it, but um, I mean, that shit happens. Like this was,
Allegedly.
it was a pretty
Jeez.
realistic movie,
Allegedly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
and like that shit happens.
Yeah. Take it from Trevor, the Wild Wild West expert.
The Wild
Well,
Wild
not
sex
just Wild
expert?
West, but
What?
like the
West.
medieval
Wow.
times. Like they did some very weird
Oh yeah, they
tortures.
did.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, I don't agree with the audience score. I think it needed a little bit higher. I don't know about 91.
Oh,
I would say like 85.
okay. It's respectable.
Yeah.
Any reasoning to go with that?
Um, I'll bring it up when it comes for what would I change.
Oh boy. Okay.
But I feel like
The whole thing.
there were things that they mentioned, but they didn't stick to. So yeah,
Okay.
continuity. I think that's
Interesting.
what it's called.
You lost me there, but I'm interested to see what you have to
She'll
say.
explain it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Hannah?
I also don't agree with the audience score. I think that's too low. I do think the tomato meter is a little high, but not too much off. I would give this also an 85.
Nice.
I think the main dig for me was that the pacing is a little bit slow. That's mostly a personal preference. I knew it going in, it was going to be a little bit slow. It's a Western.
Yeah.
And comparing it to movies like Tombstone and Wyatt Earp, like those are just hours and hours of Western. So this
Yeah.
Yeah.
is a little on the shorter side of that, but that pacing is not typically something I like to come back to.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that sold it for me is the how well the characters were established. They were not only established, but they were established quickly. Like you knew who each character was within like a couple minutes of meeting them. You could
Yeah.
like tell their entire personality. But the also great thing about it was that even though we met them quickly and met their personalities, it didn't hinder them from growing over the whole movie. We saw different sides of people, even though we thought we knew them from the beginning. Most prominently, like I mentioned before, Brooder and Saucy. We learn that he cares for animals despite coming off really cold and heartless from the beginning. So I liked that, you know, even though we experienced them very quickly, we also experienced them grow throughout. And I feel like a lot of the characters had a lot more depth than a normal Western.
Nice. For me, I agree with the critic score. I'm probably pretty biased just because it is my pick and it is a movie I genuinely enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to rate it with like my favorite movies out there, but I mean, it's definitely one of those movies that I was genuinely surprised when I saw it. Watching it for the first time, I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, just because it is a Western, and I know that Westerns sort of have that reputation of being like a slow burning kind of film that are 2.5, 3 hours long. But this one clocked in at a respectable 2 hours and something, 10 minutes or something like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, for me, I thought, yeah, there were some slow parts of the movie, and I feel like it didn't really get going until about 45 minutes in. But I think what I liked was, um, the writer's ability to fill that time with not just a bunch of nonsense and actually setting up these characters that we're going to have to spend the whole movie with. Um, and I feel like they did a really good job at just kind of making the audience care about these characters. And I'm a sucker for really like brutal and gruesome scenes in movies, so I actually
Oh
really
boy.
didn't mind the more grotesque parts of the movie. It did make me cringe, though. I'm not saying like, oh yeah, this is my shit right here. Like
I was
that's
like,
not what I was going
do
for.
it again.
But
Oh
I think
God.
for me, why I like stuff like that so much is because it's something that's like different, and it's something that's really showing how brutal a man can get. Um, and it's just this risk that not a lot of movies would be willing to take. So that's what I really appreciate about movies like this, where it's kind of like, this is how it was, and this is our or at least this is what we think how it was. I mean, I don't know if they ever believed that there were cave dwellers out there. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's one of those things that's like, this is how brutal man can get, um,
Right.
and it could get even worse. I'm sure there's even gross things people can think of, but yeah, I just appreciate a movie that can kind of stoop down to that level and really, really make someone cringe, but like not in a, I don't know. Like there's
I
two
think
different ways to cringe.
I think another thing about it was like with gore really it's more of like is it necessary? Does it add to the story? And like I didn't watch any of the gore scenes, but I feel like it probably did add to the story a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like to show, like you said, like this is how dark or this is how people were. or how they interpreted
Well,
them to
that,
be.
and it shows the stakes.
Yeah.
Like, they knew if they stayed there, they're going to die, but now they see how they're
How?
going to die.
Yeah.
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 And, like, that was a pretty terrible fucking way to die.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for adding that. So yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. I mean, I think it was a really top-notch type of movie for me personally. I
Cabinet.
liked the story, I liked the characters, I liked the gore. I think, like Gigi said, I think a lot of the gore in this movie really did kind of justify itself, and it wasn't just there for, shock value.
Yeah.
Even though it was a very shocking moment.
Yeah.
But yeah. So now we'll move on to our favorite moment or moments, if you have multiple.
Wait, did we do the what would you change?
Isn't it? Well, I mean, I was going to ask that, but does it matter which one we do first?
Oh,
Is it usually
no,
the
no,
other
no.
one?
I thought we did what would you change right after that. That's my bad.
Should we?
It's up to you, man. It's yours.
Yeah,
It's
it's up
your
to
movie.
you.
I'll stick with the favorite moment. So Trevor,
I already said it.
what's your favorite moment or moments?
You said it. Although I do like how realistic it was. Um, Creators of either it's like an artist or like a director or whatever, typically they're afraid to hurt their main characters. But in this one, like you can see him getting peppered with arrows and um, taking some hits, and some of them die. So like that's why I really like Robert Kirkman and George R. Martin when he's actually writing.
Hmm.
Like they're not afraid to hurt their characters,
Yeah.
Shots fired.
and it really shows how realistic. Like it's real life. Like just
Yeah.
because you're the main character, that doesn't mean you get to make it out unscathed.
Hmm.
But my favorite moment is actually a line, and Kyle already said it. Um, it's Sheriff Hunt talking to Chicory, knowing he's going to die in this cave. He says, "Say goodbye to my wife. I'll say hello to yours." Um, I think that was a really well written line right there.
Yeah,
Really enjoyed that line.
definitely. I love what follows too, because Chicory like wants to say more, and Sheriff Hunt's just like, no, just leave it at
Like,
that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
go, bro.
Just go, bro.
Don't worry, I'll 360 no scope these guys.
These noobs. I'll teabag them for you.
He keeps just yelling after every shot, "Your mom!"
Oh man.
Oh man. Okay, my favorite moment was when they're like laying in bed and Chicory brings up the fact of like he hears all these people that read their books in the bathtub.
Yeah.
And like the sheriff's just kind of like, why the fuck are we talking about this right now? Like we should be trying to sleep, kind
Yeah.
of thing. And then he tells him to like go and buy a music stand like when he gets back, and like the way his face lights up, like this man is a genius. Like why
Yeah.
didn't I think of that? Like oh man, it was, I was just like, look how happy he was.
Yeah.
He was just like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna go and buy a music stand.
Like it did nothing for the
Oh,
story,
man.
but it was just such a cool little moment.
Yeah, it was.
He definitely wrote it down in his journal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Bet Bruder never thought of that.
Yeah. He was just so, yeah, such a good idea. Oh man.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. I have three favorite scenes.
Well,
First one, obviously, we've already talked about it. It's the say goodbye to my wife and I'll say hello to yours. That was really touching and got my heartstrings real bad.
real bad.
Especially watching it the second time through, I was just like, I was already expecting it, but it just had so much more meaning the second time for some reason. So yeah, that one got me good. Um, I also really liked Saucy's death.
What? You
Um,
liked it?
I know it sounds weird, but just the impact that that had and the
Yeah.
character
Yeah.
development that that gave to Brooder. You know, I was at first willing to write Brooder off, you know, because he was just so cold-hearted and so, you know, dead emotionally to everyone else.
Mm.
Like he didn't care what anybody said.
Yeah.
But you know, the fact that we got to see this other side of him, um, and you know, ultimately that made his death even more meaningful to me. But um, that scene was just so special in giving that character more depth that I really appreciated it. Um, but I think my favorite scene is the initial attack from the troglodytes. I counted it out. Um, it's a 6 minute, around a 6 minute buildup of them scouting,
Hmm.
tracking, planning, like the whole moment with the watch timer. Like, there's all this preparation that's going into it, and all of it ends up being for shit
Right.
because all of that planning went out the window, and they almost got entirely wiped out in like a few seconds. And me
Yeah.
as the viewer is trying to process all of these things like, wait, they were so prepared, what happened?
Yeah.
Right.
I just think that that build up to it, and you know, them ultimately failing because you're, you know, initially going into that scene being like, oh yeah, they're gonna do this, it's gonna be badass, like they're
Yeah.
prepared, and then
Yeah.
it just going down the shitter, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
No.
That was such an expertly written scene. Oh, it's so good. I loved it.
Nice. So Hannah, you just stole mine. I was gonna say exactly what you just said. That last
I'm
part.
Oh
so
boy.
sorry.
It's okay. But yeah, no, I agree 100% with you. I think that whole build up to them kind of preparing to go into this cave and then for it to just fall down so quickly and just get thrown right back in their face. It was like I don't know if I want to call it like anti climatic, but it was this level of like shock that was just like, oh shit, well that didn't work out. And
Yeah.
it was there was so much build up to it though. Like I really just love the initial build up. And then on top of that, I think killing off Bruder was exactly what the movie needed at that point because at the fact that they all survived as long as they did was kind of shocking. So to finally see someone from the group die, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, this is real, this is happening, and you know they might not all make it out. Um,
Mhm.
so I thought that scene as a whole was just really awesome because there was a lot of character development with Bruder. There was a lot of like shock, like, oh my god, they're all gonna fucking die. And I feel like it was just overall just like the most entertaining 5 minutes of the movie. Um, and then after it's all said and done, I think there was still like at least 35 minutes left in the movie. So it wasn't even like the real like climax of the movie. But it was up there. And then yeah, I mean some of the other smaller things like I love the conversations that they had, especially Chicory kind of just being the real like sort of like humanizing the group and making them feel like real characters. I really enjoyed his conversations that he had, even though it wouldn't have been that terrible if they left all of that out and didn't talk about the music stand in the bathtub book reading all that, or like him and his wife at the that little circus thing that came into town with the fleas, whatever that was. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, those are things that are kind of added, and it doesn't need to be in the movie. But I really enjoyed how much they, how much time they took to really like flesh out these characters and make us as the viewers kind of care about them and make them feel like they're real people. Um, but yeah, and then that scene with Sheriff Hunt and Chicory at the end, um, that was another highlight too. Just him talking about his wife and you know We've said it. But yeah.
We said it multiple times.
Yeah. All right, last thing. What would you change, if anything, about this film?
I originally had down I wouldn't change anything, but then Gigi brought up something, and I'm like, yeah, what about that? The dynamite. They brought some dynamite with them, and it was never brought up again.
Huh.
Um, and like you guys mentioned, and by you guys I mean Hannah and Kyle, things did go sideways pretty quickly. But as Bruder was lying there with, just one arm, um, they could have given him some sticks of dynamite. They could have brought some up to the caves.
Well,
I think that
I'm pretty
definitely
sure, didn't he ask for it?
yeah, he did ask
he?
for
did,
dynamite
yeah.
at that point, and it never
Yeah.
was given to him. Either that, or
That's
they
what
never
I
showed it.
was
Because then he
upset
grabbed,
about. Yeah,
because then he grabbed the repeater.
right.
Because
Yeah,
he was like, yeah, if you guys hear the explosion, that means I'm dead, or whatever it was, something like
Right.
that. But he did mention explosion and dynamite, but it
Mhm.
was never
Yeah.
nothing.
okay, so
Oops.
they
They
still didn't use it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like these guys, I mean, they didn't really know, but like the main guy, he didn't know how to use a lever action repeater. Like they're definitely not gonna know about dynamite,
Mhm.
and dynamite is super unstable. So
Right.
like you just set some up near maybe the entrance of the cave, or if you think you're dying, which Bruder knew he was gonna die. Just give
Yeah.
him a stick of dynamite, and then he could just like shoot it and set it off or something.
Mhm.
Light it up with his cigar.
Yeah. So yeah, dynamite.
Well, I mean, it's not recommended to throw dynamite into a cave because it could collapse.
Yeah.
In
There goes
reality.
Samantha.
Yeah.
Right.
But I get what you're saying. They could have used the dynamite at some point.
Yes.
More dynamite, please.
Yes. So I have two things. It was the dynamite. Like Kyle and I just mentioned, like he asked for it and it wasn't given to him. I don't think he would have thrown it in the cave. I feel like if he were
Well,
to
the
have it,
cave
it would have
was
been like,
also
well,
like
yeah, up
20
in the
feet up
sky.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I feel like he would have like self-sacrifice kind of thing with
Yeah.
the dynamite. Or he seemed to be one of those guys that was like in the advanced part of cowboying with his traps and stuff. Like I haven't seen like a lot of westerns, but they do trails of dynamite and like the box thing and like they could have done
Plunger,
something
yeah.
like that.
Do you have that sound effect?
Yeah. I'm thinking of that, and then they were in the caves. The guys, it looks like they only like use their hands to nail the bars in. And I was kind of upset that they didn't try to kick the bars open or anything with the bars at all. Or the fact that like homies took the sheriff out, or when he was out, like there was one bar missing and Chicory didn't do anything. Like he could have like pushed the other guy into the fire. Like he could have done something to get them away from the sheriff.
Yeah.
But those are the only things that I think could have changed. But that's it.
Okay. Okay.
Oh.
So what I would
Oh.
have changed.
Hand clapping.
I would have edited the scene a little bit better. And by the scene, I mean the splitties.
Oh, yeah.
Splitsies.
Close up, you mean, right?
No.
God.
I wouldn't take it out because obviously it's definitely necessary to have that scene because it's necessary to show, like Kyle said, how brutal the world is and how brutal those cannibals are.
The fear into you.
Yeah, but I think I would have edited the scene a little bit differently so that the audience didn't see as much. And this might just be a personal thing, but I personally think that things are scarier if they're left up to the brain's own interpretation. So in my version of this, I would have shown just a little bit of the start of Nick's death, like the scalping or something, but then quickly cut the camera back and focus just on the sheriff and Chicory the entire time, and had the horrible screams, the sounds, everything else in the background, and you're just watching the expressions of the two men witnessing the event. I think that would have scared me more than the movie did. I think the movie didn't scare me, it more just disgusted me because I was seeing everything.
Ugh.
And it, you know, it's just like, ugh, gross.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, if they were going for brutality and horrifying in that moment, if they had just edited it so that we were just watching the two men witness it, I think that would have been a lot scarier. Obviously, both options are pretty horrifying, but I think me trying to interpret what they're watching would have been 10 times more scary.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I have a question for you now, Hannah.
What?
So you know what they did to Nick,
Yes.
and you're saying you would have imagined something 10 times scarier. What, in your mind, is worse than that?
Well, obviously, it's a terrible thing that he went through. I just think that the sounds and the screams, while we're not focused on watching it, is scarier. Like the thought of what could be happening is scarier than actually witnessing what's happening. Like the whole, you know, I guess it's not show not tell, but the opposite of that, like tell not show. Like I don't know. There's just a cinematic element of not showing as much and leaving a lot up to interpretation that I tend to, you know, get along with a little bit better in different media. I don't like to be shown every single thing. I think that just, I don't know. Especially with horror, I think it's
Yeah. Like, if
It's a
this
little
was
bit-
like a monster movie or like a ghost movie, I definitely agree with you there. But this was supposed to be based in reality.
true, but reality can be just as scary. Like if you're in the dark, you know, and you're just hearing things around you rather than, you know, seeing someone come at you, which one is scarier?
Right, but like they kind of went all out on this.
Okay,
think.
sure. That's, like I said, that's your opinion. I think
It's
for
her
my
personal
preference,
preference.
I believe it would have been scarier if I didn't know exactly what was going on. I wasn't being shown what was going on, but I'm just watching the two people that are watching what's going on and, you know, hearing the sounds in the background. I think that would have been scarier.
Yeah.
But other than that, I wouldn't really change much, but I really do question whether or not I really believe those troglodytes would raise babies. But, you know.
Well, how else would they have more?
Their
True,
legacy.
but like,
Yeah.
like, look how brutal they are to people, and even to the women that are giving them children. Am I supposed to believe that they're like loving, adoring fathers?
No.
I
No.
don't. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But you know, that's just a silly change.
For me, I would say show more of Nick's death. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, God.
I just want to say, I didn't want to say it during the movie because we were all in the moment, but the one thing that I wish I mean, it's not something that they need to establish to make the scene work, but I just think that, because I don't really know, I've never had personal experience with someone getting cut open in front of me, but I think there would be this horrific stench that would come out after this body is just cut in half
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
Definitely.
They're
And
cutting to the bowels too.
yeah, and I don't know. I just feel like if there was even just someone just being like, "Oh, that smell," just like some small
Oh
little
my
thing.
gosh.
Because I mean,
Um,
there's a lot of gross fluid coming out of Nick, and I couldn't
yeah.
tell on his butt. I couldn't tell if it was poop or just dirt, but
Oh shit.
that's what I'm
I
thinking.
mean,
Because I think if I was getting cut in half like that, like I'd probably just be so scared that I'd probably shit myself.
Oh
But
yeah.
but anyway,
Or yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I don't know if there was some way they could have established like just like this little stupid thing that I thought
Well,
of. Uh,
not only that, I like I said, I didn't watch the scene, but did anyone puke? Did anyone like gag? I feel like
No,
there
they were
was,
just
that's
kind
not
of
some.
watching in horror.
yeah, there
that's
was
I
a,
what I'm
feel like
saying.
that's
If you were focusing on Chicory and the sheriff during that scene instead of watching it, you could have seen like them essentially puking or trying to hold it together as they're watching this guy
but
get
like I
split in
don't think
half in
they
front of
did
them.
that though.
Oh no, they didn't. But I mean, if they had a version of it like that, you would probably get a little bit more sense of that realism
Yeah.
to it
yeah,
because they would be
Just back
in
and
real
forth.
time reacting.
yeah.
Back and forth. Yeah. I don't know.
But
Either way,
another,
I would not want to watch it. Right.
yeah, another thing that I would have changed slightly. Um, I really didn't like the fact that when Arthur and Samantha and Chicory left the cave, they left the pregnant cave dwellers alive because, for starters, that's no way to live. I feel like it would have been better for them to kill these women that are just being, used as carrying babies, and have no real sense of life. And then on top of that, I mean, what if the cycle just starts over again? What if the babies that do get born just turn into the same cave dwellers that we saw in this movie, and they just left them alive?
How
How
though?
they would have to have some kind of adult.
I know, but what if they grow up to just live the same life? Like, you never know. I don't know. I'm
I
Not if they
think they
don't
would have
grow up.
died pretty early on.
I,
I
I
feel like they
know.
would
I'm
be
just
dead.
saying, like, I don't know.
On a technicality, what if
Yeah,
they grow
because,
up?
well, no, because imagine, I mean, you don't know if Sheriff Hunt's going to be able to kill all of them, and
Yeah.
so I just feel like in that moment when they pass by the two pregnant women, I feel like Arthur just should have,
Like a mercy killing.
yeah, mercy kill, and whether Sheriff Hunt does kill the rest of the cave dwellers or not. Because even if, because I mean, if I was in Arthur's shoes, I wouldn't want to take that chance and be like, well, yeah, Sheriff Hunt's got it. He's going to kill them all. Because what if he dies? What if he bleeds out before the cave dwellers even come back? Or,
You guys
we don't
took a
know what's
really
going
long
on. So
Yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't take that chance, and I would just mercy kill these two pregnant women because, I mean, they're the babies inside of them were just meant to be monsters anyway. So might as well just put a stop to it before it even starts. I don't know. I don't know if that's brutal or not, but I just feel
That's
like
just
that
your
would
opinion.
be, yeah, I just feel like that would be the safe route to just do that so that they're not taking any chances.
Now I want a sequel movie where one single cave dweller survives and he just takes revenge on the town.
Probably.
All right. So that was Bone Tomahawk. Um, I'm glad you guys enjoyed the movie. I hope you, as the viewer, watched the movie because I don't know why you'd be here if you didn't. But yeah, go check it out. Bone Tomahawk, good movie. Um, Trevor, I know we kind of talked about it before, but is there any kind of tease for the next movie that you're eventually gonna pick?
There is, and there's actually more than a tease. There's a reveal.
Oh
Ooh,
shit!
fuck.
The next movie we do will be No Country for Old
Oh my
Men.
god.
Another western.
I wouldn't really exactly call it a western though.
Yeah, I don't know. I never
I
actually.
mean,
I've only seen
Sounds
it
like No
once.
Country for Gigi and Hannah.
Wait, so am I the only one who's seen it?
I watched it once when it came
Oh,
out,
okay.
but I was
I
really
know
young.
how it ends.
I have not seen it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, there you go. There's our next movie. So stay tuned for that, and in the meantime, stay
Out of the caves.
out of the caves. Yeah. If you
Don't
see,
let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
Oh, boy.
oh damn, that was a good one. Ending it there. That's it.